So you don't have to believe what I say. You don't have to even listen to this whole thing. Because I feel like when it comes to God, the universe, and spirituality, in any of its forms, is down to the individual. I feel like religion is something, or the lack of religion, is something that is personal to each person. I know that I have my own experience with spirituality, just like how other people do. I mean, in this world, pretty much everything is relative. It's all, from the observer, and we are all observers, and we all have our own experiences. So, is in no way what I say a absolute. It's just my opinion and my experience. So to be LGBT and to experience God and spirituality, this is just my perception of that, how I have experienced it through the 27 years that I've been on the planet. And I want you to make sure that when you listen to this, you just take away what resonates with you. If there's some things I say that you don't agree with and that doesn't resonate with you and your soul and how you feel, then dismiss it. Do and listen and take on board what is right for you. And with that as a sort of disclaimer, I shall continue with what I believe and how being LGBTQ, being, I guess you could say, socially different than the norm, and how you can be religious and still have spirituality, and the sort of spiritual side of being LGBTQ. So if this is the first time that you've come across my channel, came across me at all, my name is Christine Loveridge, and I am a life coach, a filmmaker, and my hope is to be someone that can help inspire and motivate other people in some way. That's all I want to do. I just want to help other people. I feel like that's what I've been born to do, and I can't think of any better honor really than trying to make the world a better place. Now, when I started to really think about my life path and what I wanted to accomplish, I came with a lot of doubt, and sometimes I still doubt myself. Who am I to feel like I can help people? Who am I to say that I can motivate people or inspire them or to help them change their lives? And then I thought about the people that actually are doing that in the world on a higher scale. And well, if they can do it, then I can do it. And if they are worthy of doing it, then surely in some way I must also be worthy of doing it, because everyone, I believe, should be equal and should be treated as equal. So let's get into the meat of this. Being LGBTQ and spirituality, how can these two things be the same? And I'll tell you, well, not necessarily the same, but how can these two things be linked? And I'll tell you why it's a difficult concept for a lot of LGBTQ plus people to grasp, and for a lot of heterosexual sort of, people to grasp, if you kind of understand where I'm coming from. And it's the fact that, of course, in spiritual texts, a lot of religious leaders in the world, or in the past, I feel like things are a lot better now than what they have been, which is a great sign, a good thing. But in the past, and also in the present right now, there are things going on in the world, and basically what those things are is that being gay, being LGBTQ+, being anything different than heterosexual is wrong. And that's sort of like especially when it comes to religion and spirituality, where a lot of people's opinions lie. And I believe that way of thinking is outdated. I think that way of thinking is wrong, fundamentally wrong, because as someone who is spiritual, I can't think of a more important part of being me than being in connection to spirituality and to the universe and to God and to my higher self. Because my relationship with God, the universe, my higher self, is all in relation to my relationship with me and how I perceive the world and how I perceive events that happen in my life, events that happen around the world, and what ultimately, the bigger questions of life reside. Questions about the universe, my questions about heaven, my questions about any sort of afterlife, my questions about the turmoil that I go through and also the joy that I go through. It all comes down to my spirituality and how I feel about being alive. Okay? So let's start with a big question that I feel like a lot of LGBT people go through. And that is, am I damned in some way? Am I somehow going to be locked out of the gates of heaven, if there is a heaven, and if there is a heaven and a hell and that sort of thing? Then I don't really want to believe in any of it, because deep down that that's wrong. That that's not how the world is, or how the universe is, and how what happens when you die is. It just seems so wrong. I mean, this is something that I felt ever since I was a child. It never really resonated with me that people go to hell. It never resonated with me that people are damned, and when we die, we are put into this horrible furnace that we burn in forever. It's something that I just couldn't believe. I could believe in a God in the sky, that said this and do that. That's more believable to me than hell. So the fact that all these religions tell us that being LGBTQ or being gay is wrong is something that just completely, I couldn't even register it, because it just it was just so far away from what I actually believe, you see. So, being LGBTQ, are we denied by God, by the universe? My answer for that, from what I've experienced and from my own personal opinion, is no. You can be LGBTQ and still be spiritual, because there are different forms of it. There are many different forms of it. And I let go of the idea of what those teachings, those certain teachings in the Bible was about, about the fact that being gay was wrong. I let go of that. I chose to listen to and take in the messages of love, of peace, of trying to help each other, of loving thy neighbor. I love that, even though it's from a religion that kind of negates being gay. I love that saying, love thy neighbor. I think that's a universal truth, and I think that is one of the things that certain spiritual text got right. And I feel like in most religions, there are certain parts of it that are true, that are deeply, profoundly true, and that is the loving one another, taking care of one another, not judging each other so much, not hating on each other so much, not killing each other, not drugging each other, not using any of these kinds of substances, not lying, being truthful, those things are the things that resonate with me as an LGBTQ plus person. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my belief in what this whole universe, what life is all about. Now, I believe that we are just, we came from a place that was pure, unconditional love. And the reason we are having this human experience is to have contrast. Because if there was nothing but unconditional love, then I guess you could say life would be pretty boring. Everything would be pretty boring. The universe would be pretty boring. So we kind of need this contrast in order to really fully experience what it means to be that unconditional love. Because if you can still be unconditional loving, even when things are bad, even when you meet someone you don't like, even when someone's sexuality is not the same as yours, but still experience that unconditional love, that's where the real juice of life is, I believe. That's when you really start to feel at peace. Because when you align with how you truly are, which is a source of unconditional love, in my opinion, all the other problems just dissipate, they just dissolve. And I'm going to say something now which will probably be very controversial, but again, this is just my opinion. You don't have to believe it, you don't have to agree with it, okay? And that is, I believe, like, the reason why there are people who are different from each other on the planet, so it doesn't matter what you are, whether you are disabled in some way, have some sort of disability like Down syndrome, whether you are a different sex, whether you are a different race, whether you are a different sexual orientation, it doesn't matter how in which you are different. We have all come to teach each other how to love unconditionally. Can you still love a hobo who is asking for money and all he's going to do later on is spend it on drugs? Can you still love someone like that? Can you love someone who has a different skin color to you, but has different beliefs on sexuality, who has different beliefs on what's right and what's wrong? Can you still love someone like that? Can you still offer that olive branch to them? Can you still love someone who is against anything LGBTQ? And alternatively, for people who aren't LGBTQ, can you love someone who is? And the answer to that, of course, is yes. And that's why we all have different skin tones, we all have different sexual orientations, we all have different belief systems. That's the reason why they are there. The reason why they are there is so we can transcend them and still love each other. Or we can still believe our beliefs, but still love each other. We can all have different colored skins, but yet still love each other. And that is what's really important. And that's what I believe why we are so different. And I believe that's why we are here. And that's what we are here to experience. So let's talk about God. Let's talk about the universe, your higher self. And basically when I say God, or when I say the universe, or when I say our higher selves, I am basically talking about the same thing there. And I'll tell you what I mean. From my point of view, okay? So God and the universe are the same. And the reason that they are the same is because they all give the life source. They all create. They all make the trees grow. It makes your hair grow. It makes your heart beat. It makes your fingernails grow. It's what keeps your body changing through the years. It's the life source. And your higher self is the same as well, because your higher self is when you are in alignment to the universe, to God. So that is when you are acting or being in a way that is similar to the universe and to God. And what is that? Well, when you are acting and being like God and the universe, you are doing what the universe and God does, which is creating. So being inspired, being unconditionally loving towards other people, and being at peace. You must have had times in your life when you just felt so relaxed, so loving, so happy, so joyful, and so inspired, on a certain project that you might be doing, or just inspired to be alive. That is when you are most connected to God, to the universe. That's why I call that your higher self, because your higher self is when you are most happy, when you are most joyful, when you are most inspired. And anyone can feel that. Anyone can experience those feelings. and be in connection to God and to the universe. So, in accordance, I guess you could say, to some religions that negate being LGBTQ, where does that come into play? And what I mean by that is, if God and the universe and your higher self are just loving, unconditionally loving, joyful, at peace, inspired, and creating, and that's all it does, then there's no room for it to be hating, for it to be damning people. It just simply isn't there. It doesn't make any sense for God and for the universe and for your higher self to be like that. It makes no sense at all. And I'll explain it this way. Imagine a tree. The universe created the tree. Surely someone might have planted it there, but what keeps it growing is the life source, the thing that makes everything grow simultaneously. And you think God just one day just pulls down his big hand and starts pulling up the tree? God doesn't do that. The universe doesn't do that, because the universe just creates. God doesn't take stuff away. The universe doesn't take stuff away. The universe doesn't damn anything. God doesn't damn anything. It only creates. God and the universe aren't just one day we're all going to wake up, go outside and find there's no more grass. Because he's like, yeah, you know what? Nah, I don't like grass. Can't be doing with grass. Grass is too different. I'm going to take that away. I'm going to damn it. I'm going to throw it in hell because I don't like grass. God doesn't do that. The universe doesn't do that. So in context to being different, so having different skin tones, being LGBTQ, if God and the universe really didn't like us, really damned us, why wouldn't he just, or why wouldn't she just take us away? And the reason why it doesn't is because it doesn't know anything about that. It doesn't know how to hate. It doesn't know how to damn someone or anything, because it just creates. And like I said, the reason why God created us in the way that we are is to give contrast, is so we can teach other people unconditional love, and we can love people unconditionally who are different than us. That's why anyone in the world is different from each other. That's why some people are tall and some people are short. That's why some are fat and why some are thin. That's why some have different shapes of eye. Why have someone different hair textures or different hair colours or different skin tones. That's why anyone is different. So the answer to, can you be religious? Can you be spiritual and still be LGBTQ? My answer to you, from my opinion, is yes. And that's what I had to say in this talk. I hope you enjoyed it. I really love talking about this stuff. And let me know if you'd like me to talk about this kind of stuff again, or if you have any questions, then please let me know. Let me know in the comments. And I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye, guys.